Legal implications of relationships. As you know, relationships can take many forms. In this lecture, we'll discuss California's laws on marriage, common law marriage, living together, and domestic partnerships. Marriage has certain eligibility requirements in California. If you seek to get married, you must be at least 18 years old. If not, you must get consent of your parent or guardian and a judge in order to get married. You must also be sufficiently unrelated to the person you wish to marry. You may not marry your grandparents, your parents, children, siblings, or aunts and uncles. However, first cousins are okay. You must be sane and mentally capable of consent, and the person who you're going to marry has to be sane and mentally capable of consent. Now, they must be sane and mentally capable of consent at the time of marriage. This does not mean that someone who was potentially not sane or incapable before or after marriage is barred from getting married. If they had a lucid moment at the time of marriage, then the marriage is fine. You must also be sober and not under the influence of drugs or alcohol when trying to get your marriage license, or the clerk may deny it to you. Fifth, the law says you must be physically able to consummate the marriage. This is not currently enforced, but it is on the books. And lastly, you must be unmarried. Once you've satisfied those eligibility requirements, we get to the procedural requirements for marriage. There are three. The first is that both spouses must jointly apply for a marriage license. They must go down to the county clerk, present their identification, and fill out the appropriate paperwork. Secondly, there must be some sort of ceremony performed by an authorized individual. This is often someone who is authorized by the state of California, or somebody who is a member of the religious organization that the couple belongs to. Thirdly, there must be at least one witness, one other person aside from the individual who married you, who was present and can witness to the fact that the couple gave their vows to be married. Bigamy is a crime committed when a married person knowingly marries again. It's punishable by a fine of up to $10,000 or imprisonment for up to 1 year. Even the spouse who knowingly marries someone who is married already is punishable. They can receive a fine of at least $5,000 or imprisonment. Now, prosecution is rare in terms of bigamy. However, it does happen, and it often happens. When it does happen, it happens in cases of fraud. In cases of, for example, somebody marrying somebody else to try to get into a trust fund or trying to use them for something specific, then could be prosecuted if the spouse finds out. Same-sex marriage has had an interesting history in California. Between June and November 2008, we had legalized same-sex marriage in California. The California Supreme Court had declared the ban on same-sex marriage to be unconstitutional, and so by striking down that ban, we had many couples enter into marriage between that time. Then the next thing that happened, you'll probably remember, we got Proposition 8. And what Proposition 8 said was, okay, if the Supreme Court is going to say that this ban is unconstitutional, then we'll just change the Constitution. And so it created a constitutional amendment which would ban same-sex marriage. And then, as you'll remember, Proposition 8 was challenged in federal court as being unconstitutional in terms of unconstitutional to the federal U.S. Constitution. The federal district court then struck down Proposition 8, and the Supreme Court of the United States denied cert, which means they denied the appeal to the Supreme Court and upheld the federal district court by refusing to look at it again. And so as of August 2013, we have the Ninth Circuit confirming that the stay is lifted and same-sex marriage resumes in California. Next we have common law marriage. What common law marriage is becoming legally married by doing three things. First, by living together for a long period of time, and holding out to others as husband and wife. That means when you're going around, you're acting like your husband and wife. You're introducing yourself to each other as husband and wife, for example. And thirdly, intending to be married. Common law marriage exists in some form in 15 states of the United States. However, California is not currently one of them. What do I mean California doesn't have common law marriage? It means that it doesn't matter how long you live with your partner in California. You do not have the rights of a married couple. However, if you move to California after you have formed a common law marriage in another state which recognizes common law marriage, California will treat that marriage as valid, but it will be treated as a marriage, not as a quote-unquote common law marriage. That doesn't mean that couples living together have no rights. It is illegal for housing providers to discriminate against unmarried couples or to discriminate against familial status. It is also illegal for employers to discriminate against their workers on the basis of marital status. Finally, we get to domestic partnership. In order to be eligible for a domestic partnership, you have to fulfill 7 requirements. Number 1, you must be a part of either a same-sex couple or a couple with at least one person who is over the age of 62. Number 2, you must both share a common residence. 3, you must agree to be jointly responsible for each other's living expenses. Number 4, you must be neither married or in another domestic partnership. Number 5, you cannot be close blood relatives. Number 6, both people have to be at least over the age of 18. And number 7, they must sign the Declaration of Domestic Partnership. This is available at the Secretary of State and can be actually found on the Secretary of State's website. With the domestic partnership, partners gain rights which are equivalent to spousal rights in California. In other words, they gain community property rights, they gain the right to petition the court for spousal support, they obtain the debts of the other partner and obligations to the debts of the other partner. The child of the relationship would be considered the child of both parents. However, adoption is still recommended because some states and the federal government do not recognize domestic partnership, so for the sake of moving around and for federal taxes, it's good to have one of the parents who is not the biological parent adopt the child. The partners also have the right to refuse to testify against their partner in court. They are eligible for family, student, or senior citizen housing. They have the right to inherit from their partner. They have the right to make anatomical gifts upon death of their partner, have the right to make health care decisions, and have the right to benefit if they are state employees from the partner's benefits, and insurers must treat them equally as spouses. Laguna Beach, Sacramento, San Francisco, and West Hollywood actually accent the rights that belong to domestic partners. They grant additional rights which include family health benefits, family leave, and hospital and jail visitation privileges.